Artificial intelligence is part of a sci-fi post-apocalyptic universe called Esoterra, which we've been developing for a few years now. Was born out of a love for the post-apocalyptic genre in particular. I love sci-fi as well, so Book of Eli, Fallout, The Road, all sorts of stuff like that. I think that Esoterra and artificial intelligence, they originally started out maybe more sci-fi heavy, partly due to just budgetary kind of resource constraints. I've just done what I can. I can't have like CGI robots and all this other stuff that might have been cool and I might have done. So I've had to work around that, and that's okay, because now the world and the stories that I tell, they're just going to be a little different, and we're going to approach those sci-fi aspects in a more creative way. Having those limitations and those things we have to work around just forces us to be creative and problem solve. So the filming process for artificial intelligence was sort of unusual compared to what I'm used to. We basically, because of how much work needed to go into each scene, like lots of art work in particular, lots of, like set design and prop design, costuming. Because of all of that, we sort of treated each chunk of the film, they weren't technically scenes like as in script scenes, but each portion of the film we broke up into parts, and there would be prep for each of those parts. I would say the process has been about 2 years, because the early concept art and the script, I believe, were back in 2019, maybe like early mid 2019, and we're just now, February, March of 2022 finishing this film. So it's been a long process, because there were so many things that I was trying for the first time, experimenting with new creative things, working with new people, trying to figure out how do I build an art team and like work with them to do all these different tasks. There were just so many unknowns for me. So the filming process had a lot of roadblocks, just as much because it was expensive and difficult as there was a lot of learning curve there. So
I think it goes without saying that the elements were an obstacle, but that comes with the territory of filming here in Arizona, where it's either really hot or really cold. Luckily for us, we got to experience both. From me, it was acting, across from somebody who wasn't there. So Chelsea Clare, who voiced the AI Sam, provided me with, or I was provided with sound bites from the audition. So I would listen to those and take those to memory, and then as we were rolling and filming and things like that, I would, deliver my lines and have to remember.
It was, we shot my particular scene on one of the hottest days that we had in Phoenix in quite some time. And if you look closely on any of the finished film in my scene, I'm close to dead. So I would honestly say that the biggest roadblock that we ran into was just the heat.
So I did everything I could to help this project be a canvas for experimentation and for innovation. So even if it just means that me and the people I'm working with learn some very good processes so we can know how to do certain things and have those resources on hand locally, that is, to me, that's a win. Being able to do pyrotechnics, fire rig for vehicles, which we did, which I've never done anything like that. Neither had the people I worked with. Like finding someone who's an expert to assist us in doing that. So now we have the capability, the knowledge, the resources to do that for future projects, whatever we need to help other people. Awesome. One of the things that we were looking into was 3D printing props. I really wanted to try this because I hadn't really seen anyone do it that I know, or really anyone do it. I'm sure that, again, on bigger productions it's been done, but just locally having that capability and knowledge.
Well, having the concept art was huge to try to live up to the artist's expectation of what it was. But probably that was also a moment, is when he got to see what he had drawn and what he had imagined and what he had talked to Nick about, what it was going to be ultimately.
This one is 3D printed, right? It's a different material than the resin, which is 3D printed, but this is like a plastic. So it's a little lighter, but it's still just as nice I like it. I like this one a lot. This one went on Jake's backpack, which that was another cool prop with the coolant hoses all over it. We found that would glow in the dark. We didn't even have to light those up. Yeah. This was one of those things where it made me stop touching it.
Yeah,
Because I just kept adding more. You know what I mean? Like,
well, we wanted the weathered paint and I didn't want it to be pristine, but better than the first one. But sometimes you gotta stop.
you gotta stop.
I appreciate everybody that busted their butts on this, that worked tirelessly to make this happen. From the set hands to the grips to people behind the camera, they all just busted their hump trying to make this happen and making this happen. I learned a lot about the fibers that make this community, this Arizona film community, and it's deep and got a lot of talented people. Something I already knew, but I guess it's great to be reminded of that.
You can make a quality film on a shoestring budget with found items that, when they're put together in the right way, from the costuming to the set decoration to the rigged up smoke machines that we had, between action and cut, it turned into art.
I would say working with Nick is again very similar to the whole project. I mean, he's the leader. He was the leader. Kept everybody motivated. Was very motivating with the cast. As far as working for him in the art department was great.
I love structure, and he's very structured. Even when he's unsure, his unsure is very structured. And even though things doesn't go as planned, again, it still works out just fine, at least in my opinion. He's a man of his word, and he's really good at owning up to things. So if he knows he, made a mistake, he owns up to it, and he makes sure the process goes through, which is awesome.
His direction, he let us play. He let us we'd do the scene exactly the way it was written, and then we'd tweak, and then we'd kind of play with it a little bit until we got down to what his vision really was. So it was a joy, really.
It's been a cool experience on this, because in the past I've done a lot of stuff without dialogue, and this one had plenty of dialogue. So that was really fun. And as far as working with crew, I love just working with people, being on set, working with people in pre-production. A lot of the time, working in pre-production, it means me sitting at a desk by myself, listening to music and doing some sort of work alone, which I enjoy a lot to a certain extent, but sometimes you just want to get away from the desk and you want to work with people and come up with cool ideas and just experience that synergy of creating something cool together. So you don't get to do that when you're a director working by yourself in your office, but you do get to do that when you're collaborating with your crew. So